to piano lesson number 14. Today I'm going to be talking about time signatures, rests, clapping, blah blah blah, all to do with timing and whatnot, stuff like that. I've got my little green tie on. I just watched The Matrix and I decided to dress all like, I had like this green tie and I'm like, maybe I'll dress all Morpheus style even though, I'm not as intense as Morpheus. I'm going to show you the matrix of music. Okay, so let's start off with rests. Alright, so what are rests? Rests are simply a place where you get to take a rest, except you have to keep counting. That's the only thing. You get to take a rest, but you have to keep counting because you only get to take a rest from playing or clapping. So think of rest as the flip side of notes. Notes indicate, notes mean you have to play, rests mean you don't have to play. Okay? So notes are sort of like if there's two cousins. One was the loud cousin, he's like, hey, what's up, man? And blah, 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 blah. And then there's the quiet cousin, he's like, my name's Joel, and I like apples. That'd be like the difference. One just doesn't say much. It's just like, and the other one's just like, hey, what's up? Blah 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 blah. He's the social. He's just loud. I'm sure you have friends that are like that, and you can tell the difference. Okay. So rests are quiet. Now, for every note, there's an equal and opposite rest. So there's a whole note. So guess what? There's a whole rest. So the whole rest, I just put whole, half, whatever, but it's whole rest. And what it looks like is it looks like a hole in the ground. So imagine you're walking along, and then you're like, boop, and you fall in a hole. Or it also sort of looks like an upside down hat. Hey! Anyway, so yeah, this is the upside down hat, or the whole rest, the fall in the hole. How many beats is it? How many beats is it worth? It's worth 4 beats, so you have to count to 4 in 4/4 time. So I wrote, this is the number that you associate it with, like it's a 1, because it's a whole. And it's 4 beats per bar. Like it takes up the whole bar. Now the special thing about whole rests is you can actually write a whole rest into a bar that has 3 beats, so it could be in 3/4 time, and you write a whole rest in there. And you're like, that doesn't fit. It doesn't matter. You know why? Because whole rests just say that the whole bar just isn't going to have anything in it. So that's basically what it is. It just nullifies the whole bar usually. Unless you're in some weird time signature like 16/4, where there's 16 quarter beats. So you'd need 4 of these whole rests, and that would just be a whole other story. But I'm not going to get into that because that'd be crazy. And you're not going to see that because I've never seen it yet, so at least not in practical music. I've seen it in theory stuff, but that's another story. So there's no real practical need for that. Okay, so the next one is a half rest. It's associated with the number 2, and it gets 2 beats. Just like a half note got 2 beats, gets 2 counts. So the half note and the whole note look similar. One is upside down, or the upside down hat, which is the whole. Just think of it as a whole. So if someone shows you the bottom, someone takes their hat off and shows you a hole, like their hat, and you see a hole, that's the whole rest. If it's up, it's the half rest. Because you maybe put it on your head and you can only see half of your head or something like that. So that's the half rest. It goes up. It sort of looks like a hat. Now, when you're seeing this in music, this line right here and this line right here is actually the line of on the staff music. This line would be the 4th line. So you'd have 1 line, 2 line, 3 line, 4 line, 5 line. So this is in the 3rd space, because there's 4 spaces in each staff. So there's the bottom space, which would be F in the treble clef, then the A space, and then the C space is where you put the whole rest. So it's the 3rd space. Same thing for the bass clef. And then this one is in the 3rd space as well, so it's on the bottom. So this would be, F, and then A, and then C. So this is on the line with B, and this would be on the line with D. So it's still, both of these are in the same space, but just one's going down and one's going up. Okay, so now the next thing is quarter rests. And now this one sort of looks like a lightning bolt with a C at the bottom. So how I draw it is I'd go go, go, go with like a Z. So I'm just like jump, 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 and then I draw a C. Okay? And that's a quarter rest. It's associated with the number 4, just with the quarter note, and it is worth 1 count, just like a quarter note. Okay? So the quarter note is worth 1 beat, or the quarter rest is worth 1 beat. Now, here are the next things. This is the 8th rest, and I didn't write 16th because I didn't want to squish it all in here, and I thought it would just be easier there, but if you're wondering why, I just went to 16 there. I do know how to spell 16th. Anyway, the 8th rest. Now this is sort of like a Y with a dot here. This is sort of like the tail in the 8th note. Okay, so as you see this 1, that's the 8th note, so it's represented by the number 8, and it's worth 1/2 of a beat. So it takes 2 8th notes to make 1 2/8 rests to make 1 quarter rest. Right? 2 of these to make 1 of these, 2 of these to make 1 of these, 2 of these to make 1 of those. Now, the 16th rest, you just add 1 of these little dots with the Y's going on. So you just do a little dot and then attach it, and you just keep going down. And if you wanted to do a 32nd rest, then there would just be another dot. And to go on to the 64th rest, then there would be another one. So you just keep adding more and more as you need them. And that's it. So the 16th rest is worth 1/4 of a beat. In other words, you'd need 4 16th rests to equal 1 quarter rest. Okay? So those are the rests. So one quick last overview. This is the whole rest. It's worth 4 beats. Looks like an upside down hat. The half rest is an right upway hat, and it's worth 2 beats. The quarter rest sort of looks like a lightning bolt with a C, and it's worth 1 beat. The 8th rest here is basically worth 1/2 a beat, and the 16th is worth 1/4. Okay? So those are rests. Alright, so this next section here has to do with beat accents. Now, this might be a little bit abstract for you to start off with, but it's absolutely essential to start realizing how music is broken down on the sheet music and why things are grouped together the way they are. Okay, so let's start off with a 4/4 time signature. Now, as we know, there's 4 beats per bar. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now, each beat is not equal, if you can get your mind around this. Now, if you've ever heard a drummer in the background, they go, that is a strong beat. Now that's a weak beat. So now that one's not as strong as the first one, and then it goes to a. So a 4/4 time signature follows this pattern. It goes strong, weak, medium, weak. So it's dun 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 dun. Now that's a strong, weak, medium, weak pattern. What that basically means is that the first beat is going to be accented. Okay? So the beginning or the downbeat is going to be boom, and you're going to have like more strength to that. So usually what composers would have done is they would have created the note that would be more important in that bar, like the central melody note in that specific thing. So they would highlight and end on those certain notes, and they'd compose around that sort of a beat pattern or accent. So that's this one. So 4/4 is strong, weak, medium, weak. So remember that. Now, the next one, 3/4 time. it follows a completely different way because this is compound time. So whenever you're in 4/4 time, it's called simple time, or quadruple time, or sometimes it's referred to as duple time. It's like 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. It's like marching. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm marching on a spot. So marching or duple time is 4/4, 2/4, stuff like that, stuff with even numbers. And things with odd numbers are in compound time, so it has a different feel to it. So 3/4 is like the waltzing time. So it has the one beat, and it goes dun. That's the strong beat. Strong, and then it goes weak, weak. So it goes dun, 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 dun. So if you're doing a waltz, it'd be like da dun dun da 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 da. And I did this in another video, but I like waltzing. Da 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 dun da da da. Just so much fun. I actually don't know how to waltz, but I would like to learn. I'm not a very good dancer though. Although I think I have a better sense of like I know about rhythm and stuff like that, so and how the beats are working. So I mean, I think I could probably pick it up pretty fast because you have to do a lot of rhythm with music. Actually, playing piano is sort of like dancing but with your hands. So my hands are good dancers, but the rest of my body isn't so much. My footwork's a little bit lacking. Anyway, so 3/4 is compound time. So it is strong on the first beat and then weak and weak. Okay, now there is an importance to the way we group notes, and I'll get to that in a minute. But just make sure you take note that anything with compound time is going to have this pattern where it's strong with 2 weeks right after each other, and then strong with 2 weeks after each other. Okay, now that's 3/4, so it's strong, weak, weak, strong, weak, weak, strong, weak, weak. Now, 2/4 time is actually very similar to 4/4 time. It's like they take away the 3 and the 4, and then they just repeat it. So it's it's a very similar feel to 4/4, and it can actually be quite often confused. With 2/4 and 4/4 are very hard to tell the difference between when you're listening to them. Other than you don't hear a medium, so you don't hear every 4 beats you're hearing a really strong downbeat. Instead, you're just hearing more and more. It feels even more like a march, like 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, kind of like that. So it goes 1 with the strong. So 1, strong, weak, strong, weak, strong, weak, strong, weak, strong, weak, strong, weak. Okay, yeah, so that's 2/4. So remember that one. Now the last one here, we haven't looked at this time signature yet, but this is the last common time signature that you'll see in music. Now this one requires a little bit of a sort of a mind shift. Now essentially you actually have the same number of beats as 3/4, because look at this. If you doubled 6, like 3 times 2 is 6, and 3 times 4, or 2 times 4 is 8. So 2 times 3 is 6, 2 times 4 is 8. All you're doing is, what's happening is 8 is on the bottom. So basically 1 beat is a 8th note. So an 8th note receives 1 beat. So how many beats does a quarter note receive? 2 beats. How many beats does a 16th note receive? Half a beat. So you have to be thinking in terms differently. So it's actually 6 8th notes per bar. Okay? Now with 6/8 time signature, it's a lot like 3/4, but it's doubled. Just like everything was doubled here, we're going to double this too. So it's strong, weak, weak, and then, so it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So it's strong, weak, weak, strong, weak, weak, strong, weak, weak, like that. Okay, so that's 6/8 time. It's strong, weak, weak, strong, weak, weak. Okay? Now, let's go on to the next part of this. So memorize those. Alright, now, once you've learned how the strong, weak, weaks work. Now we have to understand how grouping goes. Okay, so the grouping of rest is much different than the grouping of actual notes, because rests involve a space of time which you can't hear, so you have to just put it on paper. Now the way this works is, think of a school system, okay? Now think of the Strongs as who's the most popular person in your school, or who was the most popular, like the jocks and the cheerleaders and all the popular kids and stuff like that. Now something you guys might not know about me is that I was homeschooled, so I actually didn't go through all that stuff. So, but you know, I saw enough movies and my friends went to school, so I heard enough about it and have an idea of what it's like, but I didn't actually go through it. Okay, but so here's the whole thing though. So think of Strongs as the people that have the most influence. They're strong, they've got the most pull with all the different personalities in the school. Like if the cool kid wears this to school one day, then other kids are going to be like, oh, let's copy this guy because he's the cool kid. And this Strong can influence or lead or whatever the people that are of less social status than them. So the Strong is like the most popular kid. Now I'll explain more of this later, like how this all correlates. Now the weak, think of the weak as like an outcast. He's like the lowest. He's the loners, like they're the loners. They're like the old like computer geeks that used to sit at a table and be like, 7 times 7 calculated to the nuclei with the blah blah blah. Oh, and my Science Whiz edition 2007 says, let's do this, and let's go to the library after and read some books, yay! I think I do that too well. Okay. Alright, so that's like the weak. It's like the people that just don't fit in, you know, they wear clothes that are 10 years out of fashion and whatever, right? They, like, if one of those geeks or whatever went up to, you know, the most popular kid in school and was like, hey, let's go over and do this, they'd be like, yeah, right, man, whatever, right? But if, like, the most popular kid in the school was like, hey guys, let's do this, they'd get a whole mass of people and they'd all listen to them and they'd be influenced. So now the last category is the medium, so the M. That'd be like, they've got some pull. They're like the average person in school, you know, they have friends, they have a handful of friends, but you know, they're not like, if they left out and did something, the school would be like, who are you, right? No one really knows them on a mass scale. So they have influence with, like, they can overpower like the lower class or whatever. Okay, so those are the 3 classes. Okay, so there's Strong up at the top, medium for the general class, and then at the bottom there's the weak. Now, here's the rules. Whenever you're grouping rests together, the Strong, because it goes in this direction, it goes the way time would flow. So if you have a rest here and you want to make it go for the whole bar, it can do that. You can combine all of this into one rest, and you actually have to. So you'd have to put a whole rest here to combine all these. Now, what if you had a beat or a note that you had to play on that first Strong beat? So that Strong beat is taken up by a note. What are you going to do with the rest of these? Did you know you actually have to do it in a specific order? Okay, so say we have a note here, we would put our quarter note here. Now we have a weak beat here, a medium beat, and a weak beat. So this medium beat can actually influence this weak beat in this direction because that's the direction time flows on. But it can't go back in time. My cat is actually chasing a moth, just flying around, and that was sort of weird, but anyway. I don't know if you heard that on the camera, the clicking. Anyway. See, there she goes again. Anyway. Okay, so the medium goes in this way, so time flows in this direction. Now, it can't influence the weak because it's going in this direction. So it can only influence in that direction. So the medium influences the weak, and they join together, and they create one rest. And now there's one rest that has to go here because this one's already been taken. So what we would draw is we have our quarter note here, we have a quarter rest here, and we have a half rest here. So this one joins together and the two come to one. And then you have one quarter rest here and a quarter note there. So that's how that would work. Now, if we have a note here and a note here, I've actually drawn an example here. We would have a quarter note on one end, a quarter note on the other, and the 2 and the 3, because the 3 is a medium and the second is a weak, and it tries to influence the medium, so it's like a geek going up to like a normal, like pretty average kid, and the geek's like, "Hey guys, let's do this." Then the guy's like, yeah, I gotta go, because they're afraid that if they do anything, then they'll become unpopular, right? So, like, I'm not saying that's really how it is. I'm just using this as an example, just to help, because this is something that people just don't seem to get. So this is the only thing that I've come up with that seems to work with people, because everyone's pretty much gone to school and they understand the dynamic. Anyway, there's no offense to geeks or anything, because I'm kind of a nerd myself, and I'm not trying to be prejudiced at all, so just disregard this. It has nothing to do with anything. It's just something to help give you an image of what you're doing. Okay, so here 1 and 4, so they go on the outside, right, because that's where our notes are. That's where they happen to be, and we have 2 rests in the middle. Why can't we just put a half rest and just join them together? Because the weak can't influence the medium, so it has to be by itself here. He's going to play Tetris by himself, and the medium is just going to, whatever. He's just going to sit there too. Because he can't influence this quarter note because it's a note, and he has nowhere to go, so he stands by himself, he stands by himself. Okay? So that's how it works. Now these two can be joined together because the strong influences the weak, and they go together like that. So that's why the strong and the weak go together. That's how that works. Okay, now there's one more other rule. You can't form a geek squad. You're not allowed to. I know nerds seem to get together and they do that, but in this we're not going to do that at all. No geek squads. So whenever there's a weak beat and a weak beat, we cannot put them together. They can't be together. No way. Not together. But the strong can come in and join all of them together. So here's some examples. Say we have a note here. We have one note on the strong beat, which is the first one, and then we have 2 and 3, which have no beats. They have no notes. We have a rest and a rest. Why didn't we join them together? Because if we did, we'd create a geek squad. So they have to be separate. Okay? Those have to be separate. Now look at this. I have nothing for the first beat and nothing for the second. But now I've put a half rest here. Why have I done that? Because the strong can influence the weak and they can go together. They have to, actually. So these two go together, and then the third just goes by the note. And that's how that works. Okay? Now if there was no note here, then you just put a dotted half note, half rest there. Actually, you do that, or you could put in basically a whole rest to just say that there's nothing in the bar, and that would probably be more technically correct. Okay. So, and then with this is pretty obvious. I mean, a strong overlaps that, whatever. It's not really, you know how it works, right? Like this is obviously just going to stand alone, or it's going to, the strong is going to go over that. So there's nothing really to go over there. And then this, so you can do one long rest here, or you can do, it's like having 2 bars. You can go from here to here and you can influence these, but these can't be together. And if these 2 are rests here and you had notes on these, the 5 and the 6 and the 1 and the 2, you couldn't have a rest that joins these 2 together, but you could have a rest that joins these two together because the strong is here and the weak is there. Does that make sense? It's sort of confusing. So the strong always has to come first and the weak can't come before. Okay? The strong comes first. The weak comes later. Okay? The weak can't come first and the strong can't come later. It's always strong first, weak after. So, and then 2 weeks can't be put together, so this wouldn't work either. So you could either do this and put all this together, or put all of this 6 together, or you could, would have to put those separate, or whatever, stuff like that. So I've drawn out some examples so we can clap through these. So for 4/4 here, it's going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. That's all of that. Now the next one, 3/4. It goes 1, 2, 3, 1. Oh, I messed up there. I just looked at that and clapped it. Okay, give me another shot here. This is like so easy clapping, I should be able to do it in my sleep. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. There you go. That's how that goes. Now 6/8. It goes like this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's this one. I'll do this one more time since it's kind of new. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Like that. Now you're probably asking, well, do you have to clap it differently when you clap it on the strong and the weak? It's sort of yes and no. You can do it and it'll maybe give you extra points for an examiner or someone that really, really wants to be picky, but it's not absolutely necessary. Now if you're a drummer, it is necessary because you have to accent those things so your band knows where you are. But if you're just, clapping or whatever, it's not too big of a deal. Okay? Anyway, so that is the beat accents. So hopefully that explains some stuff. Alright, so thank you for watching piano lesson number 14 on beats and stuff like that. On beats and stuff like that. On beats and, accents and rests and whatnot. So I hope you guys enjoyed that and you learned something from that. And yeah, take care guys.